silent, invisible, deadly. Over the forests and fields of Nazi-occupied Europe, unarmed gliders carried American soldiers into the unknown. No engines, no second chances, just courage, skill, and the constant shadow of death. The story of America's glider pilots begins in the darkest days of 1940. As the world plunged deeper into the chaos of World War II, Allied planners faced an urgent, nearly impossible problem: how to deliver soldiers, weapons, and supplies behind enemy lines without alerting the German forces. Conventional drops from powered aircraft were deadly. Paratroopers were often scattered, shot before reaching their objectives, or lost in the chaos of the battlefield. Something had to change. From this desperate need, the idea of the silent glider emerged. Unlike planes, gliders had no engines. They relied entirely on stealth, aerodynamics, and the skill of their pilots. They were fragile, wooden-winged machines carrying men and machines into enemy territory under the cover of silence. The first prototypes, like the Waco CG-4A in the US and the British Airspeed Horsa, were rudimentary but revolutionary. Constructed from wood and fabric, these gliders could carry troops, artillery, even jeeps, but only if the pilots executed each maneuver perfectly. Failure meant death. The first glider pilots were drawn from the bravest and most daring men the military could find. Some were former pilots, athletes, or thrill-seekers. All shared a singular trait: courage that bordered on recklessness. They trained in secret airfields, learning to fly without engines, to land with absolute precision, and to survive whatever awaited on the ground. Training was brutal. Glider pilots spent months mastering takeoffs while being towed, controlling descent without power, and landing in tiny, hazard-filled zones. They carried heavy loads, troops, jeeps, artillery, through dense forests, across rivers, and into fields surrounded by enemy fire. Each mistake, each miscalculation could be fatal. Veterans recall the eerie silence during their first solo glides, the wind cutting sharply against fragile wings, and the tension of knowing that landing safely was only half the battle. Beyond flying, glider missions demanded psychological endurance. Pilots learned to remain calm under impossible stress, to trust their training and instincts, and to work as an invisible team with the towing aircraft. Every mission required complete focus, complete control, and total courage. The first combat missions came during the Allied invasion of Normandy, June 6, 1944. Glider-borne troops were tasked with silently inserting behind enemy lines to secure bridges, artillery positions, and key strategic points. The pilots faced deadly risks: thick clouds, enemy flak, misjudged winds, and tiny landing zones. Many gliders missed their targets entirely, landing in forests, flooded fields, or directly in the midst of enemy fire. Yet those who survived transformed chaos into strategy, allowing soldiers to regroup and fight in ways that conventional airborne operations could not. Glider missions saved lives, enabled critical advances, and demonstrated a terrifyingly effective new form of warfare. Following Normandy, the Silent Wings faced one of their most audacious operations, Operation Market Garden, in September 1944. The plan was to capture bridges across the Netherlands and shorten the war. Hundreds of gliders carried troops, jeeps, and artillery deep into enemy territory. Night flights over hostile skies, flak-filled fields, and narrow landing zones created extreme danger. Yet pilots displayed extraordinary skill, landing their gliders almost perfectly under impossible conditions. Many missions succeeded brilliantly. Others ended in tragedy, with men killed or captured. Market Garden highlighted both the courage and the fragility of glider warfare. The final missions of the war, from late 1945 into 1945, further tested these pilots. Missions across the Rhine and Ardennes required transporting battalions and artillery under heavy enemy fire. Pilots had honed their craft, yet every flight carried the possibility of death. Some gliders landed flawlessly, allowing troops to secure objectives. Others crashed, and some pilots sacrificed themselves to save their men or avoid civilian casualties. These missions cemented the Silent Wings' legacy, a combination of technical skill, bravery, and selflessness under conditions that defied human endurance. The human stories behind the gliders are as compelling as the missions themselves. Pilots described the eerie calm before release, knowing that the slightest error would be fatal. Soldiers recalled scrambling from shattered wooden fuselages, engaging enemies immediately upon landing, and improvising survival strategies under fire. Letters home reveal courage, longing, and fear, often unspoken. The bonds formed during these missions created a brotherhood of men who faced the impossible together. Some survived improbable crashes, others were captured and endured months of prisoners of war. Yet all carried memories of the Silent Wings' unique brotherhood and the sacrifices made. Technologically, gliders were marvels of necessity. The WWII CG-4A could carry 13 troops or heavy equipment, weighing less than 3,900 pounds empty. British Horsa gliders were larger, capable of transporting 25 to 30 troops or heavier loads. Engineers had to solve complex problems of weight, structural integrity, and controllability, all without engines. Pilots had to navigate wind, altitude, and enemy fire, sometimes relying on hand signals, intuition, and precise judgment. Innovations from glider design influenced post-war military aviation and modern airborne operations. As the war ended, the Silent Wings had flown into history. They were unarmed, invisible, and extraordinarily brave. Their mission saved lives, changed tactics, and demonstrated human courage at its peak. The glider pilot's legacy extends beyond military history. It is a testament to ingenuity, precision, and the indomitable spirit of men willing to face the impossible for the sake of others. Today, modern airborne and special operations owe much to these men and their silent aircraft. Museums preserve gliders like the WWII CG-4A and Horsa as monuments to courage and innovation. Veterans, now aged, recount their flights with reverence and humility, ensuring that future generations remember the bravery, sacrifice, and genius of America's Silent Wings. The Silent Wings were more than a military tool. They were a symbol of human courage, daring to glide into death to deliver life, hope, and freedom. In the quiet glide of an unpowered aircraft, history was made, lives were changed, and the human spirit soared higher than any engine could carry.